Okay, we are live again. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. So this is session 4 of the 5 sessions Gardening in Your Classroom series, free workshop for elementary teachers. So thank you for following along, and thank you for doing your assignments. And if you are stumbling upon this on Facebook, on YouTube, or on LinkedIn, and you haven't registered, and you are an elementary teacher, and you are excited and interested in growing in your classroom, make sure that you do register for the class. You still have time to go through everything that we did go through because everything was recorded. We started on Monday and we are going to finish tomorrow. So today and tomorrow we still have a lot to cover, and we have actually covered a lot so far, but you still have time to catch up. You still can register to receive the workbooks as well as the recordings, so that you can take a full advantage of what I'm sharing here for free during this week. Okay, so let me go to the comments. Please put in the comments if you are coming here from anywhere. Usually you should be able to see, a comment section if you're logged in to wherever you are watching this from. And I did have some weird comments coming in yesterday. I don't know what they were, if they were some sort of spam or something. I don't know. It has nothing to do with you. Uh, the system probably isn't working well. It was like gibberish. I don't know what those were. So if you did comment and I didn't answer them, maybe that was one of the comments. I apologize in advance, but you can always email me. And this is my email address, leilam@kidsgrowingcity.ca. Let's make that bigger so that you can see it. There it is, leilam@kidsgrowingcity.ca. Email me any questions that you might have about growing in your classroom. Let's make sure that we answer all of your questions. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started. And if you're watching this on replay, welcome and thank you for watching as well. I hope that you have been registered and you are receiving the workbooks and all of that. Okay, so ready? Let's go. So we are going to be, hopefully you can see my screen. We are going to go to start the session 4 of these 5 series. So what's happening is every day this week I went and I will go on live on the different social platforms to run a free workshop at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Everything is recorded, but you do want to be registered to the class to make sure that you do get the workbooks and the recordings. I am trying to keep this really short and packed with value. I was actually, interesting story, I was actually changing and adding to the presentation of today up until 5 minutes to 6 o'clock. And then at that point, because I'm like, oh, I have to tell them this too. Oh, let me tell them that too. But I was like, at one point, I'm like, okay, it's 5 minutes to class. You don't want this to be overwhelming. You promised that you would keep it short, so I stopped. So I hope that you take all the value that you can from these workshops. Okay, so please participate, comment, and ask questions. If you don't want to do it publicly on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook for whatever the reason, I totally understand. You can always email me, as I mentioned. And let's get started. This is the agenda. We've already gone through the logistics of a classroom garden in terms of space. We've talked about supplies and tools and materials. We've talked about how to manage your time in a classroom garden. And today we are going to be talking about what to do, what to teach, what to plant, and what to do with the plants. And tomorrow is going to be review, Q&A, lesson plan giveaway. I was actually thinking probably it's better to give away an activity guide. Anyway, I'm going to be giving away something tomorrow. And I'm going at the end of this session, I'm going to give you instructions on how to enter so that you can enter into the giveaway so that you can win. And tomorrow we're also going to be talking about my paid class, which I'm opening the doors to on Monday, called Oasis Classroom. Okay, so what are we doing today? Today we're going to talk about what to teach in your classroom garden, what to do, what are the activities that I suggest that you do with your students, what to grow, and most importantly, what to avoid in a classroom garden, when to grow the things, excuse me, when to grow the things that you grow in terms of timing, super important, and what to do with them eventually. Okay, what to teach? So here's the thing. We did talk about managing your time yesterday, and I told you that one of the most important things that you do want to consider is to do this work with your students during class time, so that you can avoid spending extra time in clubs and after school programs and after hours and things like that, so that you can, your students can benefit from all the goodness and all the learning that's happening during this growing this classroom garden during the class, and you can connect the topics to your curriculum so that you do this while you're actually teaching your curriculum. So I just wanted to mention that quickly in case you haven't watched that video. Please go and watch it. It was yesterday's video, session 3. It's a very, very important thing. It doesn't mean that you can't run clubs and after school programs and lunchtime programs, garden clubs and environmental clubs. Those are also very good to have, and they help you in the garden. But if you don't have to do those, you can actually do everything that I am going to be suggesting to you to do today during class time in your classroom. So these are actually the things that in my school garden programs, classroom garden programs, including the Oasis classroom that I'm opening the doors to, we teach. So all the lesson plans that are thoroughly connected to your curriculum, at least Ontario curriculum, and curricula in North America are very, very similar. And the connections that we make, you can make with your own curriculum. Trust me on that. So these are the things that we teach, and these are the things that I suggest to you to teach in your classroom while you are doing the gardening activities with your students. So there are 3 general category of lessons that we include in our lesson plans, and as well as which are essentially complemented with the gardening activities that we do. So the main topic is main natural elements involved in growing food. We do want to teach about those: seeds, sun, water, and soil. So in Oasis Classroom, for example, we do have one lesson plan for seeds and seedlings, one entire lesson. It does include activities, which, as you can guess, is growing seedlings with your students. But we do talk about seeds, what they are. We even, like with older students, we get into GMOs and seed sovereignty. We talk a little bit about seed saving, even though seed saving is actually a completely separate lesson plan that we go through. We also have another lesson plan for sun and sunlight. So you do want to actually focus so that you can focus on teaching about seeds in one lesson. You can connect that to the science that you're teaching, social studies, language, math, health, all of those. Same thing about sunlight, same thing about water and soil. These are very important elements, and they are very related to gardening and growing, but they are also in elementary science programs all over the place, right? So you do want to talk about these, and I suggest that you dedicate a session for every one of them. And there are other things that are helpful for growing a healthy garden. That's the second category of lessons that we either have a separate lesson for, and I suggest that you do too, or we actually incorporate these concepts into the other lessons that we have. Things like beneficial creatures, biodiversity in the soil, as well as in the plants that you choose for your garden, things like companion planting and all of that. And the third category is the environmental issues that are related to planting a food garden. Things like the indigenous ways of life, which are very important and very underrated. Essentially, we do want to teach our students about those. The forests and plant communications. How do plants communicate with each other? That forests are a community. So you can see how you can actually connect all of that to your social studies, to your obviously science and math and language as well, language and social studies especially. Seed saving and generally the idea of growing local foods and how it connects to the environmental issues. You can cover a lot just focusing on these topics. So this is what I suggest you to teach. You can have a lesson plan for every one of these, and then the gardening activities I'm going to suggest later, you can incorporate those activities into these lesson plans. And all of these could be connected to your curriculum. So what to do? What are the activities that I suggest you to do and we do with the students in our school garden programs, classroom garden programs, as well as the Oasis classroom? Obviously, the major activity that you want to do is starting seedlings. But there's all, and those are the seedlings that you would eventually give away, donate, or transplant into your school garden if you do have a school garden and want to maintain one. But we do also plant herbs and short maturing veggies that can be harvested with your students at the end of the school year. So those are the main activities, obviously. But we do incorporate experiments on soil, water, plant growth rates, and plant life cycle. Those connect very well to science as well as math, and obviously language as always. Caring for your seedlings is another activity. Going to them, checking on them, measuring them, making sure that they do have the water, making sure that they are getting enough sunlight. All of those are things that you do want to include in the activities that you have in your lesson plans. There are also crafts that you can make with your students that are related to the garden, things like bird feeders and insect hotels and bee waterers and butterfly feeds, etc., etc. And these can be very good activities for the lesson plan that's about biodiversity, for example. We also grow microgreens and sprouts. We do this as one of the first lessons in Oasis Classroom program. The two first lessons essentially are growing sprouts and microgreens, which directly relate to seeds and seedlings, which would be the third lesson. And that's what I suggest you to do as well. I'm giving away all my secrets. So, because they connect very well, and the flow of your lesson plans, if it starts with seeds and sprouts and microgreens, it's perfect, in my opinion and in my experience. But we do this in fall as well. So in our fall program, this is one of the microgreens and sprouts are because there are very good winter indoor growing, food growing activities. We do those in fall and spring, fall and winter as well. We make seed balls. That's another thing that we do in fall. And seed balls or seed bombs are a very, very interesting topic. They connect to many different environmental issues. Deforestation, one of them, food sovereignty, and another one. I'm just giving you hints in terms of how you can connect this to your curriculum and what you do want to teach your students in general. Harvesting and taste testing is another thing that we do, another activity that you can incorporate into your classrooms. And we play games. All of these lessons and activities can be complemented with games. Like, let me go back. So, all of these lessons that I suggest that you have, the things that you teach, you can come up with really fun games. And in OSS Classroom, we do have suggestions of games for every one of these lessons that actually complements your teaching and deepens the learning and makes it a lot of fun for your students. And we know the more fun they have, the better they learn. The more involved they are, the better they learn. So playing games is another activity which obviously has to be related and connected to what you're teaching in your classroom garden. So we talked about what to teach. We briefly talked about what to do. What are the activities, suggestions? Let's talk about what to grow and what not to grow. So the rule of thumb that I always use uh, when growing in classrooms and schools is that you do want to make sure that your vegetables and fruits and herbs and edible flowers, whatever it is you're growing, you want it to be easy. So don't go after really difficult plants because they will be very, very discouraging to your students. Another thing that I had to put in here and I forgot is you do want to plant plenty of a variety of plants. One of the most important, like if your students don't learn anything in your classroom garden and only learn one thing, I want them, and you probably want them, and I suggest that you want them for it to be about abundance and the idea that they can grow their own food in abundance. Okay, so that's why I really do suggest you to have plenty of different plants. Yes, you don't want this to be overwhelming for you, but you also don't want it to be your classroom garden to be sparse. You don't want it to be just two types of plants. It doesn't teach your students the abundance that they can achieve. It's not as empowering as it would be if you planted plenty of different things for them in their garden. And the learning about different types of plants and how, for example, now I'm going on a tangent here, but this is important. How, for example, the first two leaves of most every plant looks the same. It's sometimes different sizes, but it looks the same. But as soon as the true leaves come out, oh wow, now you can tell the difference between these plants. And it is also important to actually had seen many different types of plants. And another science activity or fun activity generally that you can do with them is to, can you identify which one of these leaves belongs to which one of the plants? And can you identify the family of plants? Why do the leaves of zucchinis and cucumbers and pumpkins look almost the same? And can we tell the difference? And look how that is actually immensely different than the leaves of a Swiss chard or a tomato. Okay, so when you have plenty of plants planted, oh, the amount of learning that happens in your classroom, it's just multiplies without you having to do any extra effort. Okay, so abundance is an important thing. So yes, you don't want to overwhelm yourself, but it is actually very easy to plant all of these with the same method of, you set up a sub-irrigated planting system and you do all of these in the same planting system, most of them in the same planting system. Well, probably you don't want to do, is marigold here? Yes, marigold is here. Marigold is good. Plant marigolds. Marigolds are awesome. Probably marigolds and nasturtiums you don't want to sub irrigate because they don't like wet feed, but all the other ones are just like one or two systems you have, and you just repeat the same thing with different plants every week, and that gives you plenty of plants, an abundance of plants. Okay, so now, and the squash, bean, and corn are the three that I suggest that you plant with your students, especially if you do want to teach them about indigenous ways of life, because Three Sisters is an ancient method of indigenous people of Americas that was very, very sustainable way of growing food. It's always good to have that as an idea, and talk about the indigenous ways of life. And Three Sisters is a very good segue, essentially, into that topic in your classroom when you're teaching in your classroom garden. Now, what do you not want to grow? There are plants that are seriously difficult to grow. They're very finicky. They are like things like even tomatoes are finicky, in my opinion. But there are plants that really need a lot of attention. They need very specific nutrients to be added to them, and they're very difficult generally to grow. Those are majority of the brassica family. If you want to plant brassicas with your students, go with kale and arugulas. Don't go with broccolis and cauliflowers and Brussels sprouts. They are very difficult to grow, in my humble opinion and in my experience. Those are very disappointing and discouraging to students, as their germination rate, even at the very beginning, is very low, even if you have very good seeds. So I do suggest that you do avoid them. There is so much that you can plant. You don't have to choose the ones that are going to disappoint you and your students, unless you are a very experienced grower and you have grown things like that by yourself on your own, and you do know exactly what type of specific soil and feeding requirements these plants need and all of that. Unless that's the case, I suggest you don't do that. Another thing I don't suggest you to do is starting perennial plants from seed. That is also not very easy. Most perennial plants aren't easy to grow from seed. They take a very, very long time to get there, which is outside of the patience and timeline of your school gardening and your students and your classroom. And there are some very short maturing plants that are really exciting to grow up here. Those are lettuces, radish, spinach, arugula, mustard green. Oh my God, these your students can literally see them grow. They're that fast. So make sure that you have some of those. Make sure you have plenty of different variety of plants, but do avoid brassicas, not all of them, like these brassicas, and also don't start perennials from seeds. Perennial planting is an amazing thing to do. Um, you can actually do things like from cutting, for example, mint. If you put mint stem with a few leaves in water, it roots, and you can do that. You can plant that. Then after it roots, you can plant that into a pot, and that would be another seedling that you can actually give away or sell or transplant in your garden. That's easy to do. But starting from seeds, most perennials, not all of them, but most of them are really difficult. Okay. Okay, now let's get into when to grow different things. Now, one of the major mistakes that I see teachers do, and it's not their fault, it's not like they are experts in growing plants, They just want to do something with with their students, and they usually it's bean because beans grow very fast, and they are actually long maturing, meaning it takes them a long time to get to fruit. But at the beginning, they germinate very quickly, and that's why most educators, most elementary teachers, are very drawn to them. But if you plant beans at the wrong time of year, well, that bean plant is not going to get to fruition. It's not going to give your students food. Yes, I understand the main reason you do this is not to grow food, but it is to, show them germination and all of that. But if your purpose is to actually grow a classroom garden that gives your students food, it is crucial that you do pay attention to timing. Timing is one of the very important things about growing plants. Yes, I know that you're growing indoors, and indoor temperatures are a lot more regulated, and they are disconnected to some extent from the outdoors. But as you remember, I suggest that you use sunlight, real sunlight, as much as possible, and avoid using grow lights uh, as much as possible, because there's no light, artificial light, that does it like sunlight does. And this is interesting. Even though your plants are indoors and it's warm indoors, you still want to time them right, because first of all, you're going to be giving away these plants to people, or you are going to, if you have a school garden, you're going to transplant them in your garden, and you do want to give them strong plants that are for this time, the right time of year, so that when they are out there in the community, they are transplanted and they eventually give food for the community. You don't want to just plant willy-nilly, half-heartedly, at the wrong time of year. You want those plants to get there. And you use sunlight, and sunlight's so important. I never forget, like one day, it was at the beginning of spring, my mom called me and she's like, Layla, I know you're not an expert in indoor plants, but I have this indoor plant and I've had it for all year, and it flowered last year, and this year it's flowering again exactly in spring. How on earth does this plant know that it's time to flower? This is indoors. It's not like it's been exposed to winter and now it's getting warmer, and it knows that it's time to flower. And I told her, Mom, this plant knows it's spring because of the amount of and angle of the sunlight that's shining on it. So weather is not the only thing that matters. Seasons change, and one of the important things that change with seasons is the amount of sunlight, the strength of sunlight, the frequency of rainy days and sunny days, and the way that sun is shining on the plants. All of that matters. Even though you're growing indoors, you still do want to time this right according to the season. Another way you want to time this right is according to your school schedule. This is a school, this is a classroom garden. You are going to be closed at the end of spring, in the beginning of summer. You're going to be going away, bye bye. So it's not like you can count much on summertime for your plants. So you do want to time them right. Okay, how do you do that? Obviously, you do want to pay very close attention to your local planting schedule. Okay, so now there are many different sources wherever in North America that you live, or in Europe, or wherever you live. There are sources that you can do a quick search, and you can find the planting schedules of your season. A very difficult way of doing it is knowing uh, what temperatures each one of these plants need to be started with, and what temperatures each one of these plants need for you to take them outside and transplant them, so on and so forth. And for and this is depending on temperatures, but you don't want to get into the complications of that. You want to get to a resource, go to a resource that gives you the answer at the end, that tells you, okay, for parsley, this is when you should start it, and this is when you can expect to harvest it. End the story. You don't need to worry about anything else. Yes, you might want to include in your lesson plans to teach your students that different plants need different, warmth and different amount of, water and things like that in general. But you don't want to get into too much of a complications of which plant, which, and like how like what's how many degrees is outside now. Let's go and find out. That makes your life very complicated. So this is a resource that I am very happy with. And I have to tell you this is like, if you go and even purchase their packages and things like that, nothing goes to me. So I'm not making any money. I am only recommending them because I am a very, very happy customer, and they do have a free trial. Last time I checked, they do have free trial, and they do have complicated things that are specifically for educators, like subscriptions, types of subscriptions that you can design your garden with your students, and you can give different plots to different classrooms. You can do complicated things with this if you actually purchase the program. But I'm not saying go and do that. What I'm trying to say is that this is a very good resource for you to get the planting schedule of your region. Because what happens here is, as soon as you log in, you register for free, and you tell them where in the world you live, and they actually adjust that the planting schedule that they give you to your climate. Okay, so which is very, very good. It makes life so easy. So you do go to growveg.com, and then you click on this garden planner, and there is, again, as I said, the dot here means you don't get to this planting schedule right away. You have to, tell them where you live, and you have to select the plants that you want to grow. So you drag and drop or click and drop them, something like that. And then eventually they gave you something like this. This is super useful because it makes your life so easy. It's color coded. So blue means that you have to start them in this period of time indoors. Green means that's time that you can, transplant it outside or plant them directly outside. Well, this is a classroom garden, so we don't worry about that too much. And also, when can you expect to harvest it? Okay, so this actually will tell you what can you plant, for example, like arugula at the beginning of March, and you can actually start harvesting it in April with your students. And what can you not harvest and have to wait for, if you have a school garden, you have to transplant it and you have to wait, and you have the fruit in fall, or you want to give away because it's not a plant that gives you harvest during the day, whatever, right? So it gives you a very, very good idea, and that's very helpful, super helpful. Okay, now we're getting close to the end of the session, I promise. I know that it's half an hour already, but this is also important. So what do you eventually do with them? So yes, you taught a lot to your students, you connected it all to your curriculum, everybody's happy, everybody learned, and you have ample amount of hold on a minute. I have to take a screenshot of this because, again, I got one of these really weird comments. Can you see that? That is very weird. That is not the type of comment that I want to see. Anyway, so I have to, talk to the system support and see what that is. Okay, so getting back to the task at hand, the topic at hand. So what do you do with them eventually? So you have this ample amount of food that you grew with your students. Awesome. You showed them how abundant it could be and how easy it can be to grow food. Now, there are 4 different types of things you can do with them. So there are plants that you can harvest. These are short maturing veggies: leaf lettuce, spinach, arugula, mustard green, radish. Make sure you plant these. If you don't plant anything, make sure you plant these 5. Because they are so fast to grow and your students can actually harvest and eat them. If you don't want to plant anything to give away to market, or you want to keep it simple, these are the 5 plants you want to go with. So you can harvest and eat them. The second category of plants are those that you want to give away, donate, transplant in your garden, and those come in form of seedlings. So you grow them into really strong seedlings, and now they're ready to go to their new home. Those are things like tomatoes and cucumbers and sunflowers and corn and bean and squash, etc. Mostly the fruit. And there are also plants that are long maturing, but they are so giving and they're long giving. So at the end of the school year, you could sustainably, or another name for it is responsibly, harvest from those plants. Don't take the entire thing, and the plant keeps growing and keeps giving. So you can harvest some and also give away and donate or transplant those plants so that you can so that your community also continues to enjoy them. These are plants such as Swiss chard, kale, parsley, dill, coriander, etc. Most of the herbs and leafy greens, even lettuce. Well, lettuce actually does get bitter, but well, actually, there's a 5th category of plants that you can, which is essentially the first category, that I forgot to. Oh no, I didn't forget. Number 4. Yeah, sorry. There it is. And there are plants that you can harvest sustainably or responsibly, and also give away, not because they continue to be good for harvesting as the food, but if your community keeps them, they grow seeds. And those are the short maturing veggies. So the short maturing veggies, if you don't take the entire head of leaves off of a plant, lettuce plant, it continues to grow. And harvesting sustainably is usually no more than 25% of the leaves of the plant. And you want to actually harvest from outside, the bigger leaves that are usually outside, and leave the main stem of the plant there. It grows, it bolts, so you give it away and they go and plant it, and you can name it, you can mark it, you can say this is for seed production, so plant this if you want lettuce seeds, for example. How exciting is that? It's so exciting. There's so many amazing things you can do with these. And then they go and plant it and it continues to grow. The leaves of that lettuce would be very bitter. They're not for consumption. I mean, if you like bitter, then you can consume them, but usually we don't. But they bolt and they go to flowers, and bees come and pollinate them, and you get seeds, depending on the plant. Some of them, they don't need pollination even, right? Okay, so these are the 4 different things you can do with these different plants. And it's really, really, really exciting. I hope this encourages you and inspires you to grow at least these 5 vegetables, and also a few more that you can, like the herbs. Oh my God, the herbs are so easy to grow and they are so plentiful and so giving. So make sure you have at least some herbs, flowers, edible flowers, things like nasturtiums and marigolds, things like that. Make sure you have them. I have a bigger list. Oops, where am I? Here. For you here, right? So marigolds and nasturtiums are there, and all of that. So let's go back. So, eventually, what I want to tell you is that Oasis Classroom program that I'm opening doors to on Monday was built utilizing almost a decade of growing experience in Ontario, Canada schools. And the reason I mention this is that, first of all, it's been in schools. So we know what works in schools, what doesn't work in school, and how to do it in a school environment, how to plant it in a school environment so that your chances of success are higher. And also, we have long winters and short, like not the longest winters on the planet, but we have very relatively long winters and short growing seasons. So that makes it very safe for you to follow this plan anywhere in North America, because we have, built it for the worst case scenario. And if you're living in a warmer place, this still works for you. Okay. And it also, not only it fits the seasons, but it fits the school schedule as well. So I just wanted to mention, because it related to what we discussed today. And in summary, you want to teach your curriculum while you are doing the fun and stimulating activities. Sorry, I just got distracted here for a second. Just making sure. Okay, so sorry, I apologize. Coming back here. So while you're doing fun and stimulating activities, you're growing ample amount of food to donate, give away, share, sell, or transplant in your garden, discussing important environmental and social issues that growing local food is a solution to, because we want the students to be empowered. We want them to know that by growing their own food locally, they are addressing many environmental issues that they are really, really worried about. And you can do all that during your class time. Okay, we are at the end of this session again. What I suggest that you do is you review your notes from this session, download and print the workbook of session 4 that has been emailed to you. If you haven't been registered, make sure you register so that you get all of these. Let me put that link up there again. Um, and you can also, enter into our giveaway that we're doing tomorrow. So if you're registered, you're going to get an email from me tonight or very early tomorrow morning that gives you a link in which you can actually submit your entries into the giveaway. And I'm giving away one of our really fun and exciting activity guides. And we're going to do that tomorrow at 6 o'clock on this on the last session that we have together. And you do want to also determine that one action that you want to do from the things that you learned in session 4, so that you have the plan of activities and different things that you want to grow to have a successful garden. And all of these 4 actions that you chose for yourself are what you're going to need to enter into the giveaway of tomorrow. Okay, so I encourage you to go ahead and do a review of the entire week and come back at 6 o'clock tomorrow. And we are going to have tons of fun. We're going to have Q&As. We're going to talk about Oasis Classroom and answering all of your questions that you've sent me about them, about the program, as well as having a giveaway. Okay, so I look forward to that. And this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. And that's it for me today. Again, I have some really weird comments here. I hope this is not you and this is some sort of spam. If you are commenting and I see them in a weird way, please make sure that you email me. Let me put the email here as well so that you can actually go ahead and email me. LeilaM@kidsgrowingcity.ca. Send me your questions. I'm answering all the questions that I have received during this week, including the questions about the Oasis Classroom program that I'm opening doors to on Monday, tomorrow. Okay, so before 6 p.m. tomorrow, I mean, give me a little bit of time. Before 5 p.m. tomorrow, send me your questions about any of these topics, and I'm here to answer them. We're going to answer all of them together so that everybody hears the answer to everybody's questions. That's always helpful. And that's it. That's it. I hope that you're enjoying and you're learning, and yeah, and most importantly, I hope that this is inspiring you to jump into action and to actually grow a classroom garden, no matter how small and how simple, with your students. If you join us in Oasis Classroom, I'd be honored to help you with further, but I hope that these series were helpful to you even if you don't join us in Oasis Classroom. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.